Let me cut across to some big breaking news coming in. A spine-chilling Hamas torture revelation comes to fore. A volunteer narrates the nightmarish details. Unimaginable torture on women and Israeli victims, burnt alive, shot in the head, body parts all cut off. Women, kids, the elderly raped, bones broken. Israeli volunteers making some real sickening revelations there. Remember, the Israeli Defense Forces had released images, raw footage of Hamas terrorists and their body cameras that were strapped on them when they carried out that massacre. And many of those videos there showing the kind of brutalities. I'm going to cut across to the audio that's also coming in along with this and reactions on the same of this spine-chilling videos showing the real torture. The volunteer speaking.
They were shot in the head, they were burnt alive, they were mutilated. We saw genitals cut off, heads cut off, babies, hands, feet. No reason. We saw also people shot in the head so many times, long after they were dead. We even saw them shot in the head after there was no more blood. There was no reason. This was just abject cruelty.
And there's reports about women being raped. Can you confirm this?
Yes, we have seen that women have been raped. Children through elderly women have been raped. Forcible entry to the point where bones were broken. So.
All right, we heard the volunteer speaking about the spine-chilling video that's come to fore, and many of such videos that's now been released by the Israeli Defense Forces. Shiv Arur is also joining us. Shiv, you're right at the epicenter, and the stories we hear are heartbreaking, bone-chilling. We could go on endlessly about the kind of brutalities that Hamas has unleashed. But at the moment, it's for now the Israeli Defense Forces to think rationally. They've got to, one, protect their borders and their people. More importantly, the 200-odd hostages who Hamas has still held. I think that's what's precisely holding them back from moving forward with that ground invasion quickly enough.
Well, that really is the key point of consideration. With 210 hostages still in Hamas captivity in Gaza, every move that the Israeli Defense Force makes, is going to have some kind of an effect. Now, 4 hostages in total have already been released. 2 more elderly women were released yesterday, with the help of the Red Cross. There is reason to believe that more negotiations are happening for more hostages to be released. 210 in total. But it's proving to be extremely tricky because you've got Hamas saying that they will not release any hostages unless there is an airstrike, unless the airstrikes actually stop. But at the end of the day, those airstrikes are only increasing. In the last 24 hours, we've actually seen 400 airstrikes by. Okay, there's some friendly faces here in Israel wherever you go. Thank you for being with us. Nabila, the number of airstrikes have actually increased over the last 24 hours. 400 makes it the maximum number of strikes in a single day. So Israel is not letting up either. The hostages are trickling back. Qatar and Iran are said to be in negotiations with Hamas since they protect their leadership actively as well. But on the ground, if anyone thought that Israel was going to listen to Hamas and kind of back off on its offensive, exactly the opposite is happening. Yesterday we broke the news that a limited ground offensive has already begun with special forces and commando operations. Some shallow strikes have taken place by the IDF into the Gaza Strip. Today we hear some armored strength, including tanks and armored personnel carriers, have also rolled into Gaza. Now this is not the full-scale kind of ground operation or invasion, Nabila, that everyone was expecting, but nobody should expect what they may have expected to happen before in the years preceding this. Because what happened on October 7th has changed everything. It's changed all calculations. It's changed Israel's way of seeing things and doing things. And it's not going to be an invasion perhaps like what we saw in 2009 or 2014. It's going to be much more calibrated. It's going to be much more careful. The public here in Israel, I can guarantee you, has no appetite for more, losses. Israel has already lost, many brave soldiers already. Many of them continue to be in captivity. captivity and hostages of the Hamas, and therefore every single military move at this point of time needs to be taken with great care, and that explains why perhaps it's not unfolding in the manner in which most people are expecting it to.
But even though the Israeli Defense Forces are holding back, one due to the hostages, but at the same time, it seems like the humanitarian crisis along the Gaza side is only mounting, Shiv, as many of those hospitals do not have electricity. Fuel is running out. It's going to look like a mass grave if humanitarian aid and, more importantly, fuel is not pumped into Gaza to ensure that those civilians are saved, those who have been admitted in hospitals, etc. On that side, the casualties are real high.
That is true. Yeah, you know, the civilians, innocent Palestinians caught in the crossfire has been a reality of this crisis since the first day. You know, I spent all of yesterday on Palestinian territories in the West Bank, and, you know, and many people there are in touch with friends or relatives or others or colleagues, you know, in Gaza, and they say they haven't been able to reach them because there is no electricity to charge phones. Phones have gone off. You know, there are other manner of essentials that have been completely cut off ahead of any kind of a ground operation. So this is an unfolding crisis, and I think that's one of the reasons why at this point of time Israel is not only sniffing the possible effects of of the siege and its airstrikes against Hamas, because make no mistake, even though there is a crisis, the Hamas resources are being depleted. The Hamas is losing many senior members, even though many of them still live abroad. But the humanitarian crisis on the ground, and I agree with you, cannot be ignored and cannot be denied, and that's perhaps one of the reasons why world leaders are continuing to pile the pressure on Israel. India has done so, has sent aid which has crossed over from the Rafah border, which is with Egypt of the Gaza Strip. The United States President has repeatedly talked about the humanitarian crisis and also talked about a two-state solution. Emmanuel Macron, the President of France, Nabila, is in Israel today. He's meeting with both the Prime Minister and President of Israel. He has his own many domestic compulsions with the large Arab population in France weighing on his shoulders as he makes this important trip. But domestic compulsions aside, I think there is a great deal of unanimity in terms of how this humanitarian crisis in Gaza is unfolding. The deaths cannot be denied. There are large numbers, even though even in that respect there is a claim versus counterclaim battle going on between the IDF and Hamas. But in terms of essential items, in terms of food, water, there is an unfolding crisis for sure. The Red Cross is involved. The United Nations is involved. This is familiar to many international organizations as well, because this isn't the first time something like this has happened. We'll have to see how different it can be this time. This is a much more hyper-aware and hyper-alert world. It's a world of social media as well, as we've seen with drastic effect, during the recent claims and counterclaims on both sides. So we will have to see how this plays out. Hopefully there will be clarity in the days ahead.
Shiv, before I know you're on the move, but before I do let you go, do show us around where you are. Southern Israel, that was where the Hamas massacre really began. Is it safe for civilians to move about? What's the real situation on ground in the southern part of Israel?
Okay, so I'm heading to southern Israel in just a few minutes from now. I actually stopped so I could speak to you, Nabila, but we're going to be getting into our car and heading to South Israel in just a moment. I'm still in Tel Aviv this morning. It's about 9:42 a.m. here. We're 2.5 hours behind India. We're going to be heading to Sderot and Ashkelon. These are the two places very close to the Gaza border. Both have been, targeted by rockets and continue to be. In fact, just yesterday, while we were driving, there were air raid sirens in some areas as well. So the next time we speak, I'm going to be speaking to you from Sderot, which is the last Israeli point before the Gaza Strip. And you'll get to see the Gaza Strip behind me as well. When we were reporting from there a couple of days ago, there was heavy bombing taking place, and it was visible even from Sderot. So it's still very precarious. It's still very sensitive. Air raid sirens going off, pretty much all the time, many times a day in some places, including where I'm headed. So I'll be reporting from there in just a couple of hours from now.
Right, Shiv, please do stay safe. Thank you very much for joining us.